So in just a little while, I'm going to be heading over to the shop at Dad's house to work on a Polysix that we have on the bench right now, that we're repairing the infamous battery leaking problem, and we're getting close to being finished, I think. So I'm excited to get that thing up and running and hopefully demonstrate it here on the channel. But as we've worked on this, I started wondering about the frequency of the battery problems that these things have had. You know, how many Polysixes have been damaged over the years by this leaky rechargeable battery? So if you're not familiar, when KORG made this keyboard back in the early 80s, they used a rechargeable battery on it that they would start to fail after about 10 years, and the battery acid would leak out onto the board, onto the main controller board, and would start eating up traces and components. So this led to many of the Polysixes over the years becoming inoperable. You couldn't use them anymore. And so, you know, back in, you know, maybe the late 80s, as digital started becoming the thing, with, you know, with the DX7 coming in and so many digital synths that started coming after that, analog really took, I think, a nosedive, from what I understand and what I've read. It kind of took a nosedive in popularity at that time because the digital technology was so much more stable, and the list goes on, reasons that you want to use digital over analog. And so now we find ourselves in an era where the analog synthesizers have a certain charm to them that people still enjoy. And so a lot of these vintage analog synthesizers are back in vogue and are demanding really high prices on the market, and the Polysix is no exception. You know, a good Polysix with a repaired board or a repaired battery, you know, it's probably going to run you anywhere from $1,300 to $2,300, depending on the condition, depending on upgrades, so on and so forth, which I believe is more than they cost new. So I got to thinking, the Polysix is a great analog synthesizer, don't get me wrong. But here's my question. Let's say if they made, I don't even know how many units they would have made of one of these. Would they make 20,000, 50,000? I don't have any idea. It doesn't matter. But for this conversation, if that battery hadn't been bad in those and not if it hadn't gone bad is what I should say, later on, and destroyed so many of these boards. So in other words, you know, time naturally would have taken a few of them out over the years, but not at the rate that they were being taken out of service because of the battery. So if the battery hadn't been an issue and the Polysix was still alive and well, I wonder what would that do to the prices today. You know, I think the scarcity of a good working functional Polysix, in my mind, probably has driven up the price considerably. You know, obviously there's a supply and demand issue, but is the Polysix worth more today because of the battery issue than it would have been otherwise? So I just thought that was an interesting question to ponder. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you think? Again, so the question is, if the Polysix had not had this battery issue and would only have been taken out of circulation by, you know, normal wear and tear, so in other words, I think we'd still have a lot of them left out there, would the price be as high as it is? I mean, it's a great synth, but is it that great of a synth? So let me know what you think in the comments. I just, again, on a Friday night, thought this was a topic worth asking about and discussing, so love to hear from you. I would love to have you subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Don't forget to hit the like, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.